we'll jump right in and talk a bit about process, right? And again, the goal is to create a place that speaks about from where we've come and creates a backdrop for where we're heading. Whether it's this community here locally, as well as a community that is Oklahoma City future tense. These images here give you a little sense of some of the three sessions that Gina referred to earlier in terms of trying to create these very engaged settings where everyone felt safe, right, and felt comfortable acknowledging memories, contributing stories, as well as offering up ideas, right? And we had tables with physical models where we had everyone from the community like cutting things out and pasting things down, post-it notes. It's very Play-Doh, being Play-Doh table. So it really was not only a joyful experience, but one that truly informed where we are today. One of the most important guiding pieces for the process was the mission statement, which the community developed over the course of those 3 workshops. And I'll just, hopefully everyone can see those. I'll let you read it yourself for just a moment.
And actually, the mission statement ended up being a collective. There were several mission statements that had been derived, and so we ended up sort of congealing the ideas from all of those various concepts to come up with this, and then we got the feedback from the committee and said, did we nail what everybody is embodying or trying to say?
And the key takeaways here that Paige Woodson, right, beautifully standing here, rehabilitated behind us, is the backdrop, right, to so many of the memories, the stories, but it stands vigilant over this plaza below, and all this while, to Ron's point earlier, many years ago when the master plan was conceived, it was so important that we capture this vista from 4th Street, right, which is a fairly busy street, that we kind of peel the buildings back and always allow for the view to these, the doors to this historic auditorium and school. So that is a backdrop for activities of today and tomorrow. And the idea that all are welcome is a very critical piece, right? This is a place for all. So from these workshops, there were a number of issues and themes that evolved. First, as you may have already noticed, it's a very steep site. In and of itself, it's not fully ADA compliant. So that immediately introduced challenges, but also opportunities that you'll see that we tried to leverage. The issue and idea of education, right, as this empowering force, was a theme that ultimately transcended all of the conversations. And again, of course, right, against the backdrop of school, but over the process, and we still today learn so many amazing stories of graduates of the school here, the teachers and the power of their influence in so many different ways on the graduates of the school, and then certainly what it has continued to mean to the community, even though the school has been closed for so long as a school itself. Do you want to add something?
Yeah.
I do. So education was really this, like Hans said, this common theme that really just tied every other goal and important aspect that the community had come up with. It tied it all together, and so it was so wonderful because it became like this umbrella idea that we could really focus on and use to talk about all the other things that we were trying to accomplish.
Yeah, you'll see that literally and figuratively. There were conversations about weaving as a window into a culture of making and craft. Colors, textures, and so forth were also key. We also talked a little bit about the dearth of public parks in Northeast Oklahoma City. All right, we lack open space, safe space, green space, and so how could we foster an environment where people will be drawn by its shade, by its cooling impact, by being something that so many in this community are looking for and haven't truly been offered or sustained with. And then lastly, of course, materials that are not only enduring, but also materials that are a reflection of cultural values, traditions, and so forth.
And just want to re-emphasize that these were all things that the community was communicating to us. These were ideas that they wanted to make sure that we understood and took away. So even from the original concepts that Hans and Torrey and their team came with, the committee members then had the opportunity to give feedback on that and say, this is wonderful, we don't like this, or this is too cold, or, that seems hot, and we need it to be more lush. So they really were the ones to communicate these ideas, and this team just so beautifully took those ideas and transformed them into these great design elements that you're getting ready to see.
And I appreciate you continually referring to the team here, Gina. I was remiss in introducing some of our team members here: Ben DeCooper, Warner, Ben, and Evan Sack, and then Sabrina Stevenson, who couldn't join us this morning, but they've all been a big part of the team.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Gina. We talked a little bit about the educators who had such an indelible impact here, starting with Inman Page, Celia Bro, Frederick Moon, and of course the school itself, right? Education as that anchor. There's then also the elephant in the room, the devastation of what was once a vibrant community that had such a strong, tightly woven identity. And on the left, from 1951, it gives you a sense of that fabric, the city grid. And then on the right, things are far less structured, and you see a lot more open space and fallow land. But thankfully, the changes that we're seeing here are an attempt to build back a new community. So on the left here, some of you may recognize here the Sanborn map copies here. The history of this place, as we've mentioned, is so significant. The images that you just previously saw, the aerials, right, speaking to the erosion, intentional and unintentional, of this community. We were intrigued with the footprints that the Sanborn maps, right, from the late 1800s through the 50s, the pattern of development that they revealed. And what we saw here, when you see this black outline here, that's the outline of what will be the plaza. You begin to see the homes, right, actual families living here once on this site. And it was this history of the site that was immediately connecting back to what we heard from the community, and that was that the devastation experienced by the community was an absolute and multi-generational loss, right? The loss of somebody's home was the loss of a family's equity that had been built for generations.
And what they could pass down to their kids.
Absolutely.
Like that, that really hits home about, it's not just about you, it's about what you can do for those after you.
Yeah. And so, and so you see here the 50-foot property lines, you see homes with front porches, you see their house numbers. On the corner here was still a commercial site, right? But these are the ghosts of what was once there. And so those property lines started to inform the possibility for introducing terraces into the site to help us manage that steep slope, but at the same time also literally become the footprints of what were once beautiful family homes. And up here, of course, you can see the two section drawings with that steep slope. We had discussed the idea of having either one continuous sloping site or the terraces with the community, and it was part of that consensus conversation that the terraces really foster a sense of not only belonging, but encourage people to want to hang out and linger, right? We did a whole series of studies of different uses of the plaza, whether you had, different small markets, civic gatherings, Juneteenth celebrations, and so forth. And again, those terraces really seem to to support that range of activities. And you can really begin to see here in these, I'm not sure the laser, but some of those terraces starting to help manage that site. We talked a little bit about the terraces as an opportunity. The terraces and the sidewalk had to be coordinated in order to ensure ADA access. And then just in general, kind of that sense of accessibility, like these layers of public space that so many of us have really come to appreciate. And so kind of managing the challenge of the site was a key piece to ensure that everyone would feel welcome here. Plants. So another fascinating aspect of discovery through the workshops were conversations about plants. And when you do a lot of research, and Tori and I try to do about our whole team, we have our own library related back at the office to this project. There are so many plants that tie back to the cultural identity of the Black community here in Oklahoma City, whether it's plants from portions of the United States or from across the Atlantic, right, that had real significance, whether they were plants that were about eating, whether they're about smells and cooking, or whether they were, again, about weaving and making. So the goal will be to incorporate some of these different plants into the plaza design so that we can also continue to educate and not just create a beautiful place of belonging. So moving into this theme of education, Tori, you want to talk a little bit about education?
Yeah, again, just going back to that, this overarching idea of education, and the way that we decided to start to let this be seen was by creating sculptures at 3 different important points, and they are basically different forms of a book, because we thought, what's a good symbol for education? What do people think of when they think of education? And, there's a few things, like an apple. But that maybe wasn't everyone's experience. But a book, right, that's pretty straightforward. So we developed sort of 3 different ideas, and the one at the northern, the northernmost point that you see there is actually across the street from the plaza. It's right there outside the school. And we realized in thinking about this site that we didn't want to just stop it right there, because you could keep, your view went on. And so we felt like, hey, maybe it's really important to locate an anchor up there that really kind of terminates your view or acts as the culmination. And it's so perfect because it's the school. It's what we're paying homage to, and the school is the best example of a reference to education, right? So it's leading everyone's view and eye to that, to this building that's there and what it represents, what it meant for people, and what it allowed people to do. It's not the building that's important. It's just what it allowed people in the community to do with their lives. So we, I guess should I just start at the?
Yeah, start right there.
So right at the south end, north end. We're going to the north. I'm geographically challenged. This is a book. It's a straightforward book, and it is a sculpture. You can see the size of it. It's an overscaled book. We thought of it as maybe something like a yearbook, like representative of a yearbook. We had the school's song and creed on each side of those pages. And it also has it's standing open, and it also has an opening so that you can take a picture of yourself or your kids in front of the school, and it's really a reference to what will your story be? How will this place affect you? So we thought of this as just acting as a good visual anchor to the other efforts going on in the plaza. So moving then south to the canopy, this is a big canopy of books. This occurs over as you can see, the largest part of the plaza. So in
Which
terms
is right
of,
up here at the northernmost end where it's widest.
right, and so programming wise, you know, with the community wants this plaza to accommodate a range of activities that Hans mentioned. So, you know, a small concert, farmers markets, art markets, but also maybe just parents taking their kids down to play in a splash pad that's there, or just to be in the sun. So maybe somebody's sitting and reading a book, like an everyday use. So it really needs to speak to the scale of one person or 5 people or hundreds of people, right? So this canopy offers shade, number one, because it's gonna be hot, because we live in Oklahoma. And then we decided, okay, how can we make this really feel relevant to our subject? Well, we have looked at so many books. Books have played such an important role in our conversations, mostly in the community, and then in our conversations. And so we asked them to select 6 books that were important to them, and we are basically replicating those books. And they form the canopy, and they will be lit at night so that parts of the title and the imagery on the books is illuminated. Under that canopy, we've located a small splash pad. We definitely heard from the community that they would like to see a water feature because it's fun and it's life-giving, and who doesn't want to be around water, right? And it's cooling. So we wanted to introduce a water element that wasn't a pool. It wasn't something that was going to pose a danger. It wasn't something that was a lot of maintenance, but it was something they could use when they wanted and turn off when they needed a different programmatic use. So a small splash pad there underneath the canopy will be a fun place for kids and adults together. And sorry, do you want to add something to that?
I
Okay.
do. Ralph Ellison, right, was a student of Paige Woodson, right? And most of us know the Invisible Man. Part of the process is that through our learning is that Shadow and Act was, even though we all know Invisible Man, Shadow and Act was a far more important and powerful book, and so that will be one of the books that are featured up there, right? So students, graduates of this school who became, you know, internationally acclaimed, but also more importantly influential authors, their stories will be celebrated here.
Shadow and Act is the book title that he really talks more about his experience here in Oklahoma City, and so that was the reason that book title was selected. Another book title that was very interesting, I think you will all find interesting because it was so enlightening to us, and that is the book by Earl Scarsborough. Earl Scarsborough's history and uncovering that, thanks to Anita Arnold, was just really a gem to find out about him. He was a student here, he was a drum major, people were fascinated by just how smart he was and just everything that he offered, I think, a student body at the time that he was attending. Never knowing his story and what it took for him to get to this school. And so all of a sudden, because we had uncovered or were taken to his story, the book that he wrote that's currently in the Oklahoma room at the Metropolitan Library, you cannot take it out of there, you have to read it there. The bus stop became very important because he actually lived in servants' quarters across town and had to take a bus to get to school here. All the while, none of the students, none of the teachers really ever knew that. And so he writes in his book the story of his life and what it took to get here. But then he went on. All of you, I don't know if all of you are old enough, but many of you are old enough to remember the 60s and the Black is Beautiful movement, where Earl Scarsborough was an artist as well. and he went on the images that you see that really embodied the Black is Beautiful movement around the country and ultimately even around the world were his images. That he made a decision to impact that movement and lend what he had as a gift. And so those images that are, you can Google them, or if you were in the 60s, you know what those images look like. Those were his images. So around the world, they embody the Black is Beautiful movement. So he's one of our graduates, and his book title is one of the books that we selected.
And then on the southern end, we're talking about the bench.
Yes, so anchoring the southern end where it's right here, and it's where the plaza gets really narrow, down there, it's the lowest point, and we have designed a book bench sculpture. So it's like an open book, and it has the names of teachers inscribed that were very pivotal here, and so the community is working on, what that list looks like. But it's a bench, it's a place for people to sit, it's kind of a fun bench, so kids might like to climb on it. But again, we're trying to use the same language, form language, materials to tie, the 3 points of the plaza together.
There you have it. There's the rendering of the book bench and that southern anchor. And then in a lot of ways, the kind of a feature element of the plaza is what we call the weave wall. We talked a little bit about weaving as an important activity, something that's also very tactile. And so the weave wall extends, basically hugs the eastern edge right against the retaining wall, effectively, of the new development. So that weave wall is what connects the shade canopy on the north down to the book bench to the south. And as you follow down the series of terraces, each one representing a property, a family that once lived here, you begin to see these layers and stories of the community, whether they're about people, whether they're about events, whether they're about movements, and so forth. And the color of the weave wall is very, very important.
Well, what does it make you think of? Sunset? Yes.
Yeah.
Or?
Sunrise. Right? And so rising up was a very important idea that kind of helped develop the detailing of the weave wall itself. And you can see here some, in the rendering, some of the images will be very large scale, some of them, things that people can read, but you basically just wander along that eastern edge to learn more about some of these amazing stories, a couple that Gina just shared here with us.
And so this wall, we felt like, making it very textured, like it spoke to the weaving Hans mentioned. And it speaks to these rich colors, it's so vibrant. And then it also provides these, these bits of detailed information that the community really wants, displayed and part of this, to be part of this living plaza.
And so this is just becomes kind of an overview diagram of those key moments, right, that helped infuse and inform the plaza design. But ultimately, the goal is for the plaza to simply become this, very important civic place today, right, with a backdrop for new memories, new stories, new moments of empowerment. So we'll just kind of walk you through the last perspectives here.
Before I'm going to add one more thing about the weave wall that I thought was just so brilliant, and that is that while this was very important to celebrate the history and the people that are in our history, and this is Oklahoma City's history, so to celebrate those people, the material that was selected gives us the opportunity also to take sections of it out if we need to, and go in and engrave for the future leaders, who have a story to tell, and So the wall can really become a living memorial that we can steward over time and add stories to it for future generations.
Go back to that weed wall, the bigger, yeah, you can see what Gina's saying along there, the faces and I mean you can, faces, script, really versatile, and it'll be lit. Right.
It will. Yes, of course, this plaza has to have a presence in the evening hours because it's a gathering space, right? That can happen at any time of day.
So here, so here you'll see, this is one of the property lines which, that's places and events, along there's a low terrace wall that separates the existing sidewalk with the terraced plaza areas where we've added these, basically like school desks, where people can sit and linger, read a book, hang out with a friend, meet up with a friend, but they're all angled to face the historic doors of the auditorium. One last detail that we hadn't mentioned yet are the footprints of the homes themselves. And you can see here this brownish colored ground plane with the 514, right? So that signifies the area of what was once somebody's front porch, right? So that the aspiration is that it's a large bronze plaque in which not only the house number is inscribed, but a little bit of the story, the history of maybe the family that once lived here, or other aspects of this once vibrant community. And then the footprint of the house itself will be foreseen as a gray cobblestone material, each anchored by a tree and a bench.
And also around each footprint, speaking of night lighting, we've located some of these, like, basically tried to put perimeter lighting, not around the whole footprint, but, enough so that you could see it. And it's a way to reference those ghosts of houses that used to be there, and so it doesn't lose its power at night.
So hopefully we'll, once it's built, we'll be able to see a wide range of places for people from different backgrounds, different social gatherings, single people, couples, friends meeting up, or civic gatherings. The hope is that this plaza tells the story again of from where we've come and inspires people to write new stories.
So I think we finished just in time.
Do you,
Tell people
How much it's gonna cost?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we finished our estimates and, we're still we will actually do estimates again at, basically 100% DD, that's when we're gonna do them again. But it's 6.8 million right now is where we're at, so pretty,
Heavy lifting now. I mean,
Yes.
this is a dream, now we gotta make it come true.
yes.
So tell everybody about it.
And also, we have divided the components up. Yeah, the base plaza, is 3.6 million essentially, and that will include all of the infrastructure and the elements underground, so that all of those, other components like the book canopy or the bench seating, the desk seating can be added on. And so all of those elements can be sponsored, so if you represent an organization that wants to get involved and would like to sponsor that, we have those numbers in terms of what those components are. And when you break it up into those components, it really doesn't seem as big of a lift as it feels when you just say 6.8 million. But it gives us the opportunity to, if we raise the 3.6 million, we can start construction and get going, get all of that infrastructure in, and continue our fundraising process, and then add those other components as we get the money. We're working on a website right now, so you see that. I mean, my next meeting is in 2 weeks, and it's coming along beautifully, basically taking the components of what you've just seen and putting it in a website form that'll help you navigate. And of course, always giving you the opportunity to donate.
Gina, what's the timing? When will you get it started?
We would like to get it started. We will get it started when we get the money, but we would like to be able to start as closely on the heels of our completing phase 4 as possible. So we're scheduled to complete phase 4 in 2025, first quarter. And so it would be great to be able to just, you know, in 2025, be able to start this process.
And then the Beecham's across the street?
Yes, yes. So many of you support Culture Coffee and know that they used to have a restaurant as well called Bistro 46, and it was closed during COVID. And so their goal is to expand Culture Coffee, actually building a new, very visually interactive coffee venues like you see in Seattle and all of those places. And then to also rebuild their restaurant. And so, and then you know that in phase 4, we'll have businesses there. Some of those businesses, I don't see Crystal here, but some of our committee members are here. So I just want to give them a James Robinson, Melville Franklin, Anthony Francisco, and Denavetta Davis just are representatives, and thank you for being here, because they just like, you know, they all also just put and poured so much of their time into these workshops and helping us get to this point. So we couldn't have done it without them. So thank you.